We're talking about beating Jiro today. A few days ago, I made a video on how we can beat Overhaul, who I expect to be the most represented character at Nationals by far. But coming in second, I suspect we will see a lot of Jiro. In fact, if we look at top character representation in top 8 for this entire year, we can see that Jiro has the most with 10. Now this graph is not taking into account the Las Vegas RLE. It's only taking into account the first 11 of 12 RLEs. I pulled it from universusacademy.org. By the way, they just launched a Patreon. They have an amazing YouTube channel. Go and check them out. I immediately subscribed and became a patron. But we can see that Jiro has 10 top 8s this year, with second place being Nomu with 8 and Overhaul with 8. And obviously Overhaul did that in half the time, and I suspect we're going to see Overhaul's the #1 character represented, but you absolutely have to be prepared for Jiro. I think we're going to see a lot more representation for Jiro than we've seen this year so far, just because so much is on the line. People are going to pile into the 6-hand size aggro character that they feel they can do pretty well on. If you don't know, Jiro says enhance once per turn, look at the top 2 cards of both players' deck. You may replace them in any order. And then a response after every charge, it gets +1 for every card in your card pool. After every weapon, it gets +1 speed. So +1 damage, +1 speed. If you play an attack that has both charge and weapon, it's getting +1/+1 for every attack in your card pool. And her primary attack is her ultra rare specialized sound waves. It is a 3 difficulty attack. It's a 2 check. You can't see because of my face here, but it is a 2 check, but it more than pays off the 2 check because it says after you play this card, draw a card. You can play this on offense and on defense. So after you block with specialized sound waves, you can just draw a card as well because it says play this card, not play this attack. And then it says response, remove 1 momentum after you play this attack, add up to 2 cards from either player's discard pile to the top of their deck in any order. 80% of the time, you're using it for your own discard pile. You're not using it to stack your rival's discard pile. Although an expert Jiro player would know when and where to use that on their rival instead of themselves. But most of the time, if you have a momentum, you're going to use specialized sound waves. You're going to stack your deck with 2 cards, probably like another specialized sound waves, and then a 6 check, like Arrogant Disposition or Bonds of Friendship, both 6 checks on the good and air symbols. And so you'll put an attack that you want to draw on top, and then you'll put the 6 check on bottom. So you'll first do this bottom response, then you'll play the top response to draw the attack. And then when you play the attack, you know that you have a 6 check on top of your deck. So not only is she rearranging the cards so that she can then draw her attacks and check well, but once she finds specialized sound waves, she's going to grab the very best things from her discard pile, and she's going to check 6s for the rest of the turn, basically. And she can chain specialized sound waves into each other. It makes for a very, very strong combo. Basically, once Jiro has momentum and finds this attack, it's just curtains, it's game over. She's going to win the game. Most of the time. And yeah, she has these amazing finishing attacks on the good symbol. She has Cannon Blast, which is a weapon and a charge. She also gets like Create Capture Net, but Cannon Blast is the major like finisher. You can play a Futures now to where your next attack ignores progressive and gets +2/+2. Then you can play lots of Foundations. Play the Cannon Blast on a 5, but it's really like your 6th or 7th card in your card pool. So it's getting +6/+6, +2/+2 from the Futures now, and then you can commit Foundations to get +1/+2 and +2/+4. Pretty soon you have like a 6, 12, 13, 14. Pretty soon you have like a 19, 20 damage Cannon Blast, and it's super fast, and there's just nothing they can do about it. On the air symbol, you can finish off with Home Run Comet, which is going to be your most common finisher. It's a charge and a weapon. You can't see it because of my face again. But it gets additional to its powerful rating for every charge or high attack in your card pool. So if you have a lot of them, then it's going to get like powerful 6. It sends something to its momentum. And it's just going to also be like a 20 damage move. And you just can't block it at the end of a string. Now the air symbol also gets cards like Indiscriminate Shock, for example, that could also be pretty quality finishers. Okay, so what does Jiro want? And then we're going to look at some deck lists that have topped RLEs this year, because there's several different variants of Jiro that you have to be prepared for. And what you're going to sideboard in for Jiro is going to be heavily dependent on which variant you're playing. So you have to be able to recognize what you need and then pull that from your sideboard. First, most Jiro variants are going to want momentum to turn on specialized sound waves. So they're going to be playing cards like Instant Explosive Release to send a momentum, Zero Gravity Lift, Electric Jolt is a very common Jiro card just to get the guarantee 1 damage, put in the momentum, be able to turn off the rival's best foundation on their kill turn, and then use the momentum for specialized sound waves. You also see that it's a plus ultra card, 3 diff. I can't remember the name of it, but it says after you block with it, you get to send it to Save a Million Strike. There you go, Save a Million Strike. She also gets to use that on the good symbol to send a momentum on defense. And then she wants to play strong weapon and charge attacks, preferably with flash. Sorry, I should have said preferably, not preferable. But you get Home Run Comet and Cannon Blast are the main two, create capture net. Specialized Sound Waves, of course, has flash. But she's looking for the charge attacks give the damage and the weapon attacks give the speed. Preferably, you want both. She wants to ignore progressive difficulty despite lots of cards in her card pool. Jiro does a great job at ignoring progressive because she gets to stack her deck, and then once she finds specialized sound waves, she's always stacking her deck. Good Jiro gets to ignore progressive difficulty with the futures now, and then also with cards like Staff Strike to continue to ignore with weapon attacks. And then she wants to selectively draw from her deck. She does get to look at the top 2 cards and replace them in any order she wants. So if she has an attack like, let's say, is the second card in her deck, she can put it on the top, and then she can use a card like Destined for Mainstream Success and draw that attack, or like she could use Back Alley Haymaker to draw the attack. She's selectively drawing with specialized sound waves. So she's a 6-hander, but once she gets going, she doesn't feel like it because she's so good at finding more attacks. And she wants to win the game early. Almost all Jiro lists are less than 60 cards, and they're fine-tuned to find their combo. Most Jiro lists are like 55 cards is what I would say on average, because they want to find the combo to win the game very, very early because Jiro doesn't play any defense. But let's take a look at 4 different Jiro variants. I think these are going to be the most common variants played at Nationals. So the first one here, this is from Philip. He got 2nd place at the HLC, losing to Kevin Broberg's Chaos Midnight in the finals to start the year. So this is not including set 4 or set 5, but really this list hasn't changed that much. This is an air list, and we are using Zero Gravity Lift and Electric Jolt to start our chains. Because Electric Jolt is basically a throw and Zero Gravity Lift is a throw, most of the time they will be dealing damage. If they deal damage, you can use Instant Explosive Release, which sends itself to momentum right away as long as your first attack did damage. And then you can play Specialized Sound Waves. You can go and grab your Home Run Comet and finish them off with that. And then this was before Ready, Get, Set, Go got banned, of course. A Pillar Swing to send to momentum. But that's the basic gist of this deck. It's a very, very greedy list. We're trying to get momentum as fast as possible. This is an updated list. This is a set 5 list that's very similar to Philip's list. This was run by Justin at the Gen Con RLE. But here we're not, well, I guess the attack lineup is certainly not similar, I should say, because we've taken out Instant Explosive Release, we've taken out Zero Gravity Lift, and we've taken out Electric Jolt. Instead, we are running, of course, we still have Specialized Sound Waves, but we are running Double Jab Pummels to guarantee our checks, and then we're just running more of the big cards, like Pillar Swings to try and get our momentum early if they completely block it, and Indiscriminate Shock and Home Run Comet for the finishers. And then you can see the new cards being added in here with Web of Blades from set 4 and Nice Try from set 5 and the Big 3 from set 5. And then here we have a list from Wesley Bittner. He got top cuts at Rochester RLE, but he also got top cuts with good Jiro at the Kansas City RLE, I believe. So he got top cuts twice this year, once in season 1 and once in season 2. Here's the latest iteration of the list. This is a good Jiro list where we are using Cannon Blast as our finisher. We're running 4 copies of the futures now. We could also use like Create Capture Net as our finisher since it's a weapon/charge. We're using Airstream Driver. If they block our first thing, this is going to become a 6/9. It's a charge. It feels very, very nice. You can discard a momentum and seal something in their stage to set up your ultimate finisher. We are using, let's see, we have Save a Million Strike, which is like the Instant Explosive Release on the good symbol to get momentum while we're on defense. And then we're playing a bare bones kind of defense here with just nice tries and specialist to sound. Basically, we're just trying to win the game very, very early. Again, quite aggressive. We're going a little harder into flash attacks with specialized sound waves and amplified sound blast. And then back alley haymaker is just, it's the ultimate string starter. Build in your 0 diff and get the game early. And then here we have Mitchell Simono's Staff Strike Jiro list. I believe he's also topped twice this year with this list. I believe this is the latest one, but we're only running 14 cards. It's a flat 50 card deck, but we're only running 14 attacks, I should say. Flat 50 card deck, 14 attacks. And what we're trying to do is basically Future is Now into a Staff Strike. So we can play Future is Now. Staff Strike, the combo for it is a weapon and then a foundation. Well, a lot of these foundations have the weapon keyword, like hack and slash, for example, preparing for battle, blade expertise. So we're going to go Futures Now, foundation, foundation, weapon, foundation, foundation, Staff Strike. And then Staff Strike says your next 2 weapon attacks ignore progressive difficulty. And it says draw a card for every foundation in your card pool. So then you can draw 4 cards, and hopefully you draw into some cannon blasts or create capture nets. And then you can play like a create capture net and then a cannon blast. Both of them are ignoring progressive difficulty. So now all 3 attacks that you played have ignored progressive. These are weapon and charges, so they're going to get +1/+1 for every card in your card pool. And pretty soon they're getting like +8/+8. It just gets kind of ridiculous. So this is the Staff Strike variant. Those are the 4 variants. I think you're very likely to see mixtures of all of these at Nationals. And how you defend against them and how you attack them is going to be different depending. So again, good Staff Strike, good back alley haymaker, I suppose you could say, air, and then a air instant explosive release. All right, what are the key weak points for Jiro? Well, her main weak point is that she's 627 health character with 0 defense on face. So her defense consists of arrogant disposition, nice try and specialist to sound, and maybe rearranging 2 cards of both decks. Because the Jiro switching the cards, looking at the top 2 cards of the deck, it's not really a big deal on defense, because a lot of times, like when Jiro looks at the top 2 cards of your deck, and even if she switches them or doesn't switch them, you were probably just going to check those cards anyway. So it didn't really make a difference, the fact that she knew them. And then rearranging her, like sometimes it can make a difference, but it's not a huge defensive ability is what I'm saying. And then all of these Jiros are being extremely aggressive, and so they're really not playing a lot of defense on face. So the easiest answer to Jiro is just to kill Jiro before Jiro kills you. Jiro plays that, James Harden level of defense. Weak point number 2, consistently finding the combo. Her combo can take a few turns to find, and they're subject to disruption. So for example, the Staff Strike combo is pretty clear. You have to find Futures Now, a weapon foundation, your Staff Strike. Preferably you want to have one other attack at the beginning and then draw into another one. And then it can be disrupted. Somebody can cancel the Futures Now. Or they can cancel the enhance on Staff Strike. Let's think about specialized sound waves. It needs momentum. Well, somebody could get you to discard your momentum. They could steal your momentum with capture evildoers. They could cancel the response to draw. And you just have to find those. First, you have to get the momentum. Then you have to get the specialized sound waves. So it's a dicey business. There's times when people play Jiro and they just don't find the combo fast enough, and so they die because they don't have defense. And then lastly, this isn't really a weakness, but just cancels, resets, and breakers. You have to do just enough to survive one more turn. Jiro is going to get you eventually. Just too aggressive of a character and consistent of a character. No matter what kind of defense you play, Jiro's going to kill you eventually. But you have to do just enough to survive one more turn so that you can get her before she gets you. Because again, she is not playing a significant amount of defense. In fact, pretty much a pitiful amount of defense, in my opinion. So, just survive on 1 health. That's all you need. And then you can backswing and win the game. Yeah, so Jiro's always got you on a clock. The key is take out Jiro before she takes you out. All right, cards that are strong counters. Well, we can cancel Specialized Sound Waves draw response with cards like Can't Escape Me, which says after your rival plays an ability on a non-character card, it just says ability, so it could be enhance or response. Adds any number of cards to their hand, cancel it. So for Specialized Sound Waves, right, the first thing they do is remove their momentum. They stack their deck, they put the 6 check first, and then they put on top, they put their attack, and then they're gonna try and draw their attack, but you can cancel their draw, and then now instead of getting their attack, they're gonna be checking the attack when they try to play another attack that turn. Or you can use like Evil versus Good. After your rival plays a non-character responsibility, cancel it. This is a very common sideboard card for Specialized Sound Waves Jiro. Or like Mentor Legacy Punch. It's a 2 check, you can't see because of my face, but for mid 5, you can remove it from your card pool after your rival plays a non-character response, cancel it. That's definitely not going to be as consistent, but Evil versus Good and Can't Escape Me are very, very solid options here. For the Staff Strike variant, we could cancel your next 2 weapon attacks, ignore progressive difficulty. You can cancel that with like League of Villains and Night Watch, but they're going to know that you're going to cancel that. Because both of these would have to be on stage. Nullify is a stronger option because it's a hand trap. So you just got them to use their futures now. You got them to play all of these foundations, and then if you can survive the Staff Strike and cancel the enhance on it, I think Nullify is an extremely strong card right now. If you're on these symbols and you're like, especially if you're like a 7-hander, I think you should be playing Nullify. You can cancel the future is now on the good Jiro variants with like Concentrate, remove, destroy 1 foundation after an ability on an action card is played, cancel it. Showdown, commit 2 foundations. That's a pretty hefty cost, but it's worth it here to cancel the futures now. After your rival plays an ability on an action card, cancel it. Or you can use the new 3-diff ultra rare, remove after your rival plays an ability on an action card, cancel it. I don't think I would ever main board Stopping for Breakfast, but it's certainly a sideboard card. I think Showdown is extremely strong right now. You should probably like main, if you're on the symbols, maining 1 or 2 is a good idea, and then putting a few more in the sideboard. And Concentrate is very, very strong right now. Again, most of these that I've shown on these 3, all of these cancels, these are cards that are very, very strong in your sideboard. You might not want to main board these cards. They might take down your deck's consistency, but if you're facing a Jiro, it can make all the difference in getting you to survive that 1 more turn that you need. Okay, you can take away momentum so they can't use Specialized Sound Waves. You can do that with like Capture Evildoers, Bad Guy Roundup. If you play this on offense or on defense, you get to force your rival to discard a momentum, or like Making a Stand, flip for your rival to discard a momentum. This is getting strong too because it's not, these cards aren't just strong against Jiro, they're also strong against Mirio. I would suspect Mirio to probably be the 3rd most represented character at Nationals. I think it's going to go Overhaul, Jiro, Mirio as the top 3, pretty much across the board. And so all of these cards are going to be very strong against both Jiro and Mirio. Very, very strong options here. And then we can reset the massive finishing moves that Jiro has, like Home Run Comet and Cannon Blast, with cards like Desperate Struggle, You're So Obvious, Citywide Crisis. Nice thing about Citywide Crisis is that's playable while committed, so they can't really do anything about it. Even if they commit it down, they'd have to seal it with a card like Airstream Driver. We can also do some top deck manipulation to make Jiro's Enhance not so powerful of the looking at the top 2 cards of either deck. So for example, if you have Dual Needle Lunge in your momentum and they use that, you can then flip a momentum and discard the top 2 cards of your rival's deck. Most of the time, this is kind of like a nonsense enhance in my opinion, but against Jiro it can be very, very strong. Chivalrous Competitor can be like a double whammy to a Jiro because you can flip it and force both of y'all to draw that card. And Destined for Mainstream Success, if she gets to look at your deck and switches around, maybe you want to flip this and say attack just in case she put the attack on top. Of course, Jiro can then also, if you have the foundations like this on stage, Jiro can sort of play mind games with you. Jiro might assume that you're going to use the chivalrous or assume that you're going to use the destined, but then you're in this kind of really interesting mind game situation, and it's better, at least you have some control. It's better than having zero control and Jiro having all the control. Non-enhanced speed hate, because a lot of Jiro's attacks are flashes. I shouldn't say a lot. She gets specialized sound waves, and then the other one, amplified sound blast. So you want speed hate that can work at response speed, like specialist to sound, heroic lineage. Whenever something gets a damage bonus, you can get -3 speed. High value target doesn't subtract speed, but it counts as 2 foundations when you're committing it to pass a block. So it's a very reactive foundation. That's what makes it so powerful. And then disruption, disruption, disruption. We just have to live one more turn. So barrier shield coming from the hand to say, bring this speed down to 0. My next one's going to get breaker 2. Barrier shield right now, if you're on these symbols, in my opinion, you have to be running this card. It is so strong right now. Learning the standards as well. Just strong against a variety of matchups right now. Learning the standards sometimes can get dunked on by like the future is now, because it just says non-attack card. Remove after you take damage from an unblocked attack, your rival must play a non-attack card. So sometimes you can play this and then they're just going to play the action. It's maybe stronger against like an air Jiro, for example. You go ahead and take the damage for specialized sound waves, and then you say, you stacked that 6 check on top of your deck. Well, now you're going to use that on a foundation, and I'm stuffing the card pool for your progression. Engine trouble, maybe not so much. Maybe I should have put something else here, but it's fun for like if Jiro stacks her deck because let's say Jiro has an attack out, stacks the deck, puts the attack on top because Jiro has destined for mainstream success. Jiro's next enhance is going to be flip destined, name attack, show the attack, put it in their hand. Well, you can play like an engine trouble from hand and commit down their destined, and you're not allowing them to draw. You're going to force them to check that attack. Just little things like that. Probably not the strongest disruption feast for Jiro, but I just went ahead and threw it up here. And that is going to do it pretty much for these cards that are strong against Jiro. One thing I should note is Showdown is not only strong because it cancels the action, it's just strong for the block of committing 2 rival foundations. That can be all the difference. And then characters with strong matchups. In my opinion, Mirio has a very, very strong Jiro matchup. Mirio is stealing momentum with Capture Evildoers. Mirio is zeroing out something on face. Gets to zero out a home run comet, gets to zero out a cannon blast. And then Mirio is also just very strong at killing Jiro. Mirio can very easily turn 2 a Jiro or turn 3 a Jiro. So he doesn't need that much time, and his bottom enhance can normally buy him that 1 extra turn he needs against Jiro. And then Toru 2, I feel like I said Toru 2 was a strong answer against Overhaul, and now we have Toru 2 as a strong answer against Jiro as well. I think we're actually going to see some pretty solid Toru 2 representation. I know of at least 2 or 3 people who are planning on bringing Toru 2 to Nats. The problem with Toru 2 is always like, okay, she gets really strong defense, especially against like, for example, let's just say Staff Strike Jiro. When they play the Staff Strike and it ignores progressive, Toru says, add that back to your hand. Now you're going to have to try and play it again, except it's going to be on like a 12. Or, Toru just kind of dunks on futures now, just on face, but also is quite strong in the other variants where they stacked a 6 check and now they check the 6 and then you say, no, add it back to your hand and try again. And there's a chance they're going to check a 3 this time. Very strong that way. Toru's problem is that Toru's not really able to kill Jiro early like a Mirio is. And then Nomu, at least when I was playing Nomu earlier this year and late last year, I always felt like I had a pretty nice Jiro matchup just to be, you always only take 6 and you're also very, very capable of just taking out a Jiro in the early turns, especially now with all of the tools that Nomu has at his disposal to go and grab early. You could also put characters like, All Might 3 maybe, Tokoyami just being the faster aggressor, character like Rappa. If the answer is just kill Jiro before she kills you, like a Rappa or Tokoyami could be very, very strong. But these are the three that just immediately came to mind for me. You could probably argue with me about the Nomu. I'm really not 100% sure about that one. It's just a personal experience I've had when I play Nomu. But Mirio and Toru, I'm pretty certain on. They have good matchups into Jiro. And that is going to do it for Jiro. Again, I think there's going to be lots of very different variations. If I had to pick one of these four that's going to be the most common, I think it's probably going to be this list. It feels a little less fluky than the Staff Strike list, although I'm sure Mitchell would argue with that. But it feels like it's a little less fluky and a little more consistent. The Air Jiro lists, these are fun and I think they're strong. The problem is they don't have new set 5 cards in them. And I decks kind of get stale over time. And I'm not sure people are going to be playing the stale decks, even though it's Nats and there's tons on the line. So this is the variant that I'm expecting the most of. Of course, I put this as my #1 list to test against if you're getting ready for nationals. I suppose that's a big compliment to Wesley for putting together, in my opinion, the #1 list that you have to test for. But that is going to do it for me. I am not confident whatsoever that I gave all the strategies here on how to take down Jiro. I'm not nearly as confident in what I've presented here as, for example, my Let's Crush Overhaul video a few days ago. So if you have any other ideas or any things that you've used to overcome your Jiro matchups, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear about them.